Hello people, today we're going to be talking about arrays. First we need to do a little housekeeping and explain what is going on. So in this tutorial, what I want to do is I want to make circles move around, and when they hit the sides of the stage, they bounce back. Kind of like a simple game where you'd have to dodge enemies, and these are the enemies. Of course, it's not going to be that complex at the moment. So I already created a circle class, and I will post the code on YouTube when I can. But basically, it is pretty simple. We've already extended the movie clip class before. This time it's going to have two properties, delta x and delta y. And the properties are per object. Each one gets a delta x and a delta y that you can change. And they shouldn't be public, and I actually don't think it matters. It should usually be private. So you can encapsulate them and make sure that they're only edited with methods or functions or whatever you want to call them. But anyways, it has a constructor. It takes 4 arguments. The dy, which will be set to the delta y and delta x for dx. Then x spot and xy and y spot will be where it is displayed on the stage. So again, nothing too complicated. So in the move circle, which I put in here instead of somewhere else, it makes sense to put in here. It has simple bound detection, taking the stage width, and if the added delta x and the current x is greater than or equal to it, it will reverse the delta x before doing the addition. So in other words, it'll be bouncing off the stage walls. And same for delta y. So let's go back to circle move. Now first we're going to create a single object just to make sure this works. And we'll just call it one circle. It's going to be a circle, going to equal a new circle. And again, this is not new. We'll make it 5, 10, 20, and 40, or 50. Then we're going to add the child to the stage. Then every time a new frame occurs, we are going to move it. And so that is the enter frame event. So every time it enters a frame, it will execute this code. And we'll just call it movement for simplicity reasons. Function movement. It takes an event. It is void. And all it does is move one circle. Move circle. Nothing complicated. So let's run it. And it's bouncing off the walls. Pretty sick. So yeah, that's, awesome. And we could change the frames per second. I think that makes it less smooth. Yeah, that makes it less smooth. So less frames. Not more frames. We'll do 10 frames per second, which is kind of slow, as you can see. But anyways, so it's about arrays. And so the first thing you need to do is create an array. So we'll call this array of circles. These names are extremely original, and the data type is, of course, array. And you have to call the constructor for an array, which is just array. Now, right now, it has a blank, it's empty, it's an empty array. And to add to an array, all you have to do is array of circles dot push. And this pushes to the end of an array. So since there's nothing on it, it'll be the first element in an array. And just to prove that, a little thing about arrays. If you didn't know this because you've never programmed before, arrays usually start on element 0, not on element 1. And so this new circle is also going to be added to our array. And instead of calling this from here as one circle, which we could do, we're going to call it from array of circles. And to do that, as I said before, an array is kind of like a container. It contains objects. And what the push does is it adds objects to the end. But since this was an empty array, it has no objects in it, and when we push the first one on it, it is filled in slot 0. And so to access it, we access slot 0, which is array of circles 0 dot move circle. Little thing about objects is it's the same thing as saying one circle dot move circle. And to prove this, let's run it again. The same slow thing. We're going to put it back to 24 frames per second because that just looks crappy. And there we go. The same thing. It's the same circle. So yeah. And what's beautiful about this is that we can then automate things. For example, I'm going to create 5 less than 5. Yeah. I'm going to create 5 circles. And we aren't going to be able to reference them from their original name because that's going to be overridden every single time we call this. So we'll just call this basic circle because it's not going to be one circle, it's going to be a lot. And then every single time we're going to push basic circle onto the array of circles. So basic circle. We need to have a little bit better movement and better positioning. And so I'm going to create 2 vars. I'm going to call it x position, and it is going to be a math.floor operation. You can make it ceiling of a random number, and the random number is between 0 and 1, so it's a huge fraction. And we're going to multiply that random number by stage.stage width. And we are going to do the same thing for the y position. So what this is going to do is it is going to create a bunch of random positions for these circles to spawn at stage height. And so there's our x and y position. We'll place them now in here. X position, if I could spell correctly, and then y position. We could also do this for delta x and delta y, but for now, we'll leave these as generic 5s. I'll leave it up to you to figure out those, changing those at random, which is very easy because I already gave you the code, but I digress. And we also have to add the basic circle to here. And so now we have 5 basic circles. Now the beautiful thing about array of circles is you can automate it as well. So right now only the first circle will move, the 0th circle. And I have a syntax error. How embarrassing. Line 5. 1, 2, no. Always have to count those. There we go. Only one circle is moving because we only asked for one circle to move every time the interframe occurs. So what we need to do is we have to have a for loop. We're going to have I equals 0, I less than, and here's another beautiful property, which is the array of circles, which is an array, dot length. So what it's going to do is, I believe the length, actually let's let's test this. The length is how many elements are in this array. So, array of circles. We're doing a trace statement. We need trace around it. Dot length. And it's going to give us that number. And it's 5, which makes sense. Now, since it's 5, one sec, I'm going to back up here. Let's Control Z. Since it's 5, it has to be less than, because 5 elements go from 0 to 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 5 elements. And so this is a less than, and not less than or equal to. And then finally, I++. And we're just going to say array of circles of I dot move circle. Move circle. So what this is going to do is it's going to loop through at every frame the length of the array, and at every step of that it's going to move an individual circle. So now all these circles are going to move. Wow, that is pretty sick. And that is the basics of arrays. If you want to remove elements from an array, it's just look at the documentation, but I believe it's array of circles dot pop. And there's many methods in the array. There's push, pop, shift. There should be an unshift, yeah. Shifts are the opposite of push. Shifts will push to the front of an array. Pushes push to the back of it. And then there's unshift, which pushes off the first element of the array. But yeah, that is working with arrays. See you guys next time.